should do that with my roses.
I
have drip irrigation on them, but I'm not sure they all get enough drip.
Well, that way you can, because it only needs like half of the 1 liter to be able to water it for the whole day, and it goes right to the root. It looks funky in the backyard, but it's fine.
Good evening and welcome to the Crestwell City Council work session agenda for May 23rd, 2022. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, it looks like we are missing Councilor Inman tonight.
She's excused.
She is excused because she is on a family trip, I think. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot. So Councilor Inman is excused tonight from our meeting. And so mayor's report. So you see what I'm showing off tonight? You know what this is?
Your button for the 4th of July.
So I want to encourage all of you to get a button, and they're up for sale various places around Crestwell. And it cost me
4 of them.
Well, there you go. I have about a dozen of them at home from all the past
At the
years.
library.
But they cost $2, and the entire amount, I understand, goes directly to the chamber to help with fireworks. Is that correct? Okay. So I just want to encourage you to get one, which leads me into announcing that, this is what I need to talk to you about before you go tonight. We're planning to walk in the 4th of July parade as counselors, all of you who are available and able to do that. I've also invited Lane County mayors, and Mayor Venice from Eugene has assured me she'll be here. She has family in town, so she's assured me she'll come down and walk with us. And I also have encouraged our Commissioner Heather Buck to come down and walk with us. You're also welcome to bring family members if you'd like to walk in the parade. And we have a couple of banners that we had made up years ago. One of them that says Crestwell Mayor and City Councilors, and another one that says Crestwell, I think it says Lane County something or another.
Elected officials.
Something like that. And so we march right at the front of the parade after usually the VFW and the Boy Scouts. And the Boy Scouts in the past have always volunteered to carry the banners for us. So Bobby, that's what I have to talk to you about before we're all done tonight. Get all those logistics worked out. But I want to invite you to join me and walk in the parade for 4th of July. And you may also ride a bike if you would choose to, or in the past we've even had counselors who went in golf carts. So whatever mode you'd like to do that, it's just a wonderful way to lead the parade through town. And just wave as you go. You'll see all kinds of friends and family members, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so please consider doing that. Then I want to let you know July 8th is a Friday, and at I believe it's going to be 4 o'clock. We are going to be having a barbecue and an event at the high school for the Finnish track team. And we're going to be encouraging all of our young people to come out. I hope you saw the Chronicle last week on the front page and all the beautiful pictures of our middle schoolers who participated in the marathon mile for supporting the Finnish athletes in their beautiful blue shirts with the Finnish flag. And I understand they completed a mile as a relay team in like 4 minutes and 39 seconds, which is really fast. And everyone did 50 yards. So can you imagine 50 yards and then you slap a hand and the other one takes off running? That's pretty good. So we're really trying to get a lot of community involvement when we have the Finnish team here. And so July 8th, Friday, 4 o'clock, might be earlier, might be 3:30. And Santa Pack is providing the duck truck. So if you've never experienced the duck truck, it was here at the Christmas event. And they're going to be doing a barbecue out of the backside of it. And y'all come and bring your family members. okay? The Finland team is arriving July 5th, the first contingent, and they'll be here for 2 weeks. The second contingent arrives a week later. There'll be upwards of 40 people totally in Cresswell, 26 some odd athletes, and the rest, their support team. They're sending over their doctor. The team's doctor is flying in a week from today to spend a day in Cresswell with Lon and Sarah Cox checking out all of our facilities. Interesting. And then going back home. So it's just going to be a wonderful experience to have them here. Okay? So if you mark that on your calendar, that would be wonderful.
What was the
Okay.
date again?
July 8th, Friday. We'll have stuff in the newspaper, but I think we're going to run it from like 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, something like that. Just come on out and have a burger or a hot dog and watch the athletes. And what I've been told about the athletes is, imagine professional athletes in America. Some love the crowds and are eager to visit, some not so much. Just want to do their thing and go home. So we've been told that some of the athletes are very social, some not so much. But even the ones that are social have to be very, very careful, because if any of them catches COVID while they're here, they cannot compete. So we have to be very careful and very respectful of them. You know, wave, cheer from a distance, but not expect that, you know, we're going to get close and socialize particularly. Okay? That's the end of my mayor's report. Let's go to committee reports. Administration and Finance Committee. Is there any report?
There is no report tonight, Mayor, but I would like to just throw out a gentle reminder on the court appointment to make your, get your evaluations done so we stay on track. And if you've missed it, check with Roberta.
Okay, thank you. All right, Public Safety Committee.
Councilor Inman is the chair. I'm the secretary. Nothing really new to report on the Cascadia Rising exercise. Manager Amber keeps us apprised of any contact that she's had, and really nothing new from last month. They're getting their volunteers in place and ready to go.
Do we know the date it's going to be taking place out here?
Yes, I don't
You've
know
given
if
it to
I
us
have that
before.
with me. We have.
I have it written down.
June 9th is the date that the earthquake happens. And then the airlift exercise in which they need volunteers is June 17th through 19th. And that is offloading all the food coming on helicopter by helicopter from Walla Walla.
Okay, June 17 to 19.
And volunteers need to be able to lift 30 pounds. If they can't, there are other positions such as communication and coordination. It's more than just lifting
Yeah,
the
I'm
heavy
volunteering.
boxes, so.
I'm volunteering to hand out coffee and snacks to the.
There you go.
So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't lift that much.
And then also the Public Safety Committee, we're working with our new sergeant, Sergeant May.
Yes.
Thank you. For the National Night Out. And that's been a pretty seamless transition from Sergeant Denham to Sergeant May, and working on getting the dunk tank cleaned up and contacting past participants.
Do we have a date set for that?
Yes, it is August,
2nd?
remember. It's August.
A
I
Saturday?
don't know if I
I don't
have
have it
that
in there.
Or-
Let's check my notes again. No, I'm sorry, I don't have that with me.
It's
Thanks.
early August.
Okay. Maybe next month we can get that.
Yes, possibly a police canine this year.
Ah,
And some other things that, it's just, every community has National Night Out on the same night, so it depends on availability and how many bad guys are active.
okay. All right, Transportation and Public Works Committee.
All right. Well, that would be the Hoc Road Committee, and I know that it still says on the agenda here, present plan to City Council, but as we amended that at the last council meeting, we'll be doing that next month. But I am pleased to report that next month, you'll get a report. Yes, no, we had a very robust meeting last Thursday, and actually came up with a recommendation. So our next meeting will actually be to polish that up and present it. We kind of toyed with the idea of giving you that this evening, but then realized that not all committee members were prepared to be here, and the charge does say that we'll have all the committee members here to present, so we'll try. So,
Good.
yes.
Excellent.
Yep.
Okay, Parks and Trees Advisory Board.
We're continuing on updating the tree care plan. Arbor Day went wonderfully. We had, I think it was 16 people? 16 people that volunteered, and they had just enough of the mulch to do all the trees, and they looked nice. And of course, the duck truck was there, and everybody appreciated it. Even one of the guys in the duck truck jumped out and helped us work. So Kevin did the Arbor Day proclamation in your stead. You were not going to be able to be there. Two of the three photo contest winners were there, and they received their awards, prizes for being the best photographs. And best of all, for me anyway, is that Curtis Thomas was there, and he has been helping us pull together the walking trail map, and I guess bicycles as well. And he showed us some examples, and we agreed what we wanted, and he's going to be coming back to our next meeting and showing us a draft of the map, and then we'll decide whether to go with that. And then, so we should be coming up with the map in the very near future. I think the only significant thing with the parks is that the work is continuing on the 2nd Street Park. Public Works is scheduling sewer hookups for the park. And so that's moving right along at a normally fast pace, which is not really quickly because things have to take time. But we should be ready to go this summer.
Very good.
The equipment's already there, so, here.
The equipment's ordered.
Oh, it's ordered. Okay, sorry, I thought it was
Hasn't
here.
arrived yet.
Okay, thank you for being here to correct me, because I was
Sorry.
confused. No, that's fine.
There's been a lot of conversation about splash pads on the mayor's listserv. And I just keep forwarding them to you. Hope you don't mind, but I
No, not at all.
figured, just
They're popular.
kind of like very popular. And so there's all kinds of conversation.
Yeah, we're gonna lure more traffic down 2nd Street where we
There you
need
go.
some better roads, right?
Okay, Airport Commission.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay, so LCOG. So I had planned to go to the meeting last month. I read the minutes, but then I couldn't go because I had a work conflict with my t-shirt business. But I do know that they're in the middle of finalizing the LCOG budget and doing the Executive Director Brenda Wilson's annual evaluation. Next meeting, June 23. I will plan to attend that one. All right, Lane Act.
All right, well, again, I've said it once, I've said it twice. Get excited for infrastructure. I'm just gonna keep building up this committee. You're all gonna want to be part of it, I can just tell already. Okay, so we met actually just a couple of, last week, I believe. Was it just, it was May 11th, so a little bit more than last week. On our agenda, we got our typical updates from ODOT, from the Central Lane Metropolitan Policy Committee, and then we just had some member updates. We spent a little bit of time getting an update on the Connect Oregon grants. And so that's one of the grants that the city of Crestwell got in order to be able to work on the runway, which was very exciting. So we are part of Area 2. And Area 2 actually got, there's 5 different areas. So anyway, we ended up getting 38% of the available funding just within Area 2. So there's a project that got funded for the city, or to the Eugene Airport. There's a project there that got funded. There was a project to add like a railroad spur so that we can increase like recycling capacity. And I'd have to look exactly where that was. We got funded, or the city of Crestwell got funded, and then there is another. There's one request that we had. It was for the city of Florence. It was actually like right on the cusp of getting funded or not. So fingers crossed that they're able to find some funding to be able to fund that project too. So. Because you never know what could happen, right, as projects kind of get shifted around and all that sort of stuff. Then we talked a little bit about the Lane Act Area Strategy Report. So it's not a kind of like a set in stone, this is how we have to judge all of our decisions and the metrics, but it's a good guideline because the Lane Act is going to be a really good, we're going to be a good test ground for, is this a successful metric and methodology for making decisions around all things infrastructure for Lane County. And there's a bunch of time that we've been spending working on that Lane Act strategy. So anyway, so that was exciting. Then we got a presentation for the Cascadia 2022 drill and Cascadia Rising, which we've already talked about. And so they're always looking for volunteers. And so if you are interested or if you know people, and in particular along the coast that may be connected to the tribal areas, again, looking for volunteers because all the food that gets dropped, the goal is to be able to then, how would we transport food to the coastal areas and to the tribal areas? And so they're looking always for volunteers to help with that project as well. So that's coming up in addition to all of the great things that are happening here in Crestwell. And then we got a presentation about the Beltline project coming up and the overview of that. And so we talked earlier about we had 5 projects across the city of Crestwell, the JOG being one of those projects. We had 5 projects that we got presentations on. And so this one was the last one that we got presentations on. It's about $150 million. So our little project looked great, right? Like just what a value. So, and in fact, again, it was kind of that talk amongst the Lane Act committee members that as they were thinking about like good values and good projects, again, there was lots of support for supporting our project in particular. So again, there's a huge difference between me feeling good about the conversation around the table and then actually realizing the monies to come here. But I'm still feeling really good about it. So hopefully, that is what's happening. And then our next meeting is on June 8th.
So do you know a timeline for when the decisions will be made as to what gets funded?
That's a great question. Let me scroll down in the minutes.
And what's the next step that you have?
Yeah. So looking at that's 2021 meetings. That's not helpful. So the June 8th meeting is actually what's on the agenda is the OTC decision on the funding. So I think that's coming up here soon. So hopefully soon. And I would defer to Manager Humble, as she is the chair of Lane Act, if she has any more insight on next steps or when decisions might be made.
I think further discussion is going to happen on the 8th, and then we'll go from there. But we are in talks with OTC, and they're trying to figure out exactly what funding and which projects take top priority. And they're hoping that at the last meeting that we talked about Crestwell and the JOG, that they were hoping that they could find the $3 to $5 million to get that project done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you go. Exciting things are happening with Lane Act.
So has it been decided what done looks like? Because I mean, that JOG has been discussed for years and years and years and years, and we know there's one project happening there. So I'm just very curious what done means and what actually could happen with 3 to 5 million.
Right, so they talked a little bit about adding some signal lights, they talked about realigning some streets, they talked about some pretty big projects, or the things that go along with that. So, again, hopefully that will help kind of clear out the kind of the backup that happens along with that, as well as, again, repaving, like doing all the stuff that is our perpetual pothole. But again, I would defer to manager on kind of what that done looks like.
Well, there's different alternatives, and I think once they figure out where the funding's coming from, they will look at the draft design, because I do know that one part was to put a through street through D and take off some of the congestion. And I believe the other one was not to allow anyone coming up 99 to go across the intersection. They would only be able to turn right to stop the congestion. And then there was signals and sidewalks on the south side, where there is none currently. So there's different pieces and different parts, and once they figure out exactly a better idea of what funding and where it's coming from, they will meet with all the parties and decide the final design, and then start putting it into place.
Because the south side is already gonna be done this summer, right? Sidewalk, that kind of thing. So
I know that was talked about at the original design.
if the project is approved and funding, then they'll, in a sense, go back to the drawing board and work with the city?
They will look at the placement of the streetlights, the traffic signals. That's a big issue in this redevelopment of this area. So they will probably be looking at the corner of Mill and Oregon all the way down through the 99 jog. And we'll be doing traffic studies and.
So we get to be a part of this whole thing?
Yes, we'll be a part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge, because that's been a conversation in Crestwell for as long as any of us have been around here. The jog. So, yay, that'd be amazing.
If it is much more probable than my feelings of funding coming through, and we have some final some final ideas, would you like me to invite ODOT to come to maybe a work session, or to come to a time with us to present on what it is that they're talking about and what they're thinking?
I kind of think you should confer with Manager Amberg on that, on the timing of that whole thing.
Okay, great.
Until then, let's just keep our fingers crossed, say our prayers, that it happens.
Yep.
That would be
Those
beautiful.
good funding feelings going.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, so as our reports, tonight we have a presentation from Santa Pac and Mr. Aaron Donnelly. So just come on up here to this podium. There's no microphone. You can turn it around however you want to face it.
Do you want me to stand here? I can stand here.
Do you want to stand here, or would you rather sit over here by
I'd
me?
rather sit if it's easier.
Is that all right?
That would be a lot
You
easier.
sit right over there.
All right, thank you, Mayor and staff and council. My name's Aaron Donnelly. I'm with Santa Pac. We provide the garbage and recycling service for Crestwell. I've been with Santa Pac for 15 years. I live here in Crestwell. This is Bobby Ladley. He's our district manager, Santa Pac's general manager. He also lives in Crestwell. So we love Crestwell. We're happy to be here. We also provide all of the recycling education that the state requires of the city to provide its residents to the Opportunity to Recycle Act. So we cover that for the city as well. So today, what we're coming to is to discuss the annual rate review, rate adjustment. So I submitted a letter. Basically, when it comes to garbage rates, our biggest costs are the landfill, where we take our garbage and dispose of it. Landfill is owned by Lane County. And then we have fuel of the trucks, steel of the dumpsters, and labor of the drivers. So those are our big drivers. In 2020, We did not request a rate adjustment to the city to the potential impacts of COVID. In 2021, we requested a 2.3% rate adjustment because that was the CPI at the time. So we usually try and come in and present sort of what CPI is, because those are essentially, they affect all of our, it sort of is a representation of all of our costs of doing business. This year, of course, what you probably heard from other utilities and everybody else is that the CPI is pretty crazy. I looked at it at the time I wrote this, and the CPI year over year was 8.6%, which is substantial, and it's actually even higher when if you removed, basically what's driving a lot of that is energy costs, which is fuel, and fuel happens to be one of our larger costs. But being a solid waste hauler, we are sort of burdened with some of these outpaced costs. With that said, basically we wanted to be sensitive to what the council was giving guidance to other utilities for, and didn't want to pass through the whole burden of costs to residents, so we're requesting a 5% across the board rate adjustment on the rates. 5% is the same rate adjustment that we requested with the other cities we service. Springfield just approved that 5% a couple weeks ago, and Bonita did a 4.94% in January. That was the CPI at the time. Eugene is still under a rate review, so that's where that's at. So that's sort of the basic information. But how will it impact the average citizen? And so 5%, the most common service people have is a 35-gallon can picked up once a week. So that will, 5% means that will cost $1.10 more per month. It'll go from $22.40 to $23.50 a month. So then I've also attached a full rate schedule as to all the rates, but I like to at least show like most average rate. So regarding yard debris, we got a 16.7% increase on our disposal fees there. We're not looking to pass that through other than just a 5% increase on yard debris. However, with that increase comes the potential ability to add food waste in the yard debris. And so we presented that to Springfield. It's been going on in Eugene for, I believe, since 2019. We did pilots there before that for a couple of years, launched it in Eugene, and now just announced it in Springfield. They approved it. And so we're going to roll out in Springfield, and my hope is that we can roll out in a city like Cresswell next. So that's my goal on that. And what that means is that you can put, right now the yard debris is if it grows, it goes. So if it's in your garden above the ground, you can put it in. But what this would mean is you can put in everything that you produce out of your kitchen. So all food waste, meat, dairy, egg, bones, everything. Plate scrapings, essentially. So we see it as a great benefit, but there are problems, educational pieces that need to be, basically we need to take it to the processor and it needs to be clean, or else they will give us fines and reject our loads, etc. So we're trying to roll it out in Springfield and get that education piece dialed, and any of the bugs sort of, because it's the processor that will take the food waste and yard debris is new to taking this, and they've never taken it from us before, so we want to make sure those are kind of ironed out, and then we'll just hopefully spread it out. So, and the kind of even probably even more sort of exciting or interesting thing is effective June 1st, we are announcing that we're going to be adding back in some of the recycling that we had to take out during the China recycling crisis back in 2018. So this is the newsletter that everybody's going to get in their bills in the first week of June. And right now, the plastics that you can put in your recycling are a milk jug or a drinking bottle. And we're going to expand that to all plastic 1s and 2s. So it's detergent, salad dressing, mayonnaise, ketchup, mustard, it's peanut butter, bleach. You look on the bottom of the jug, and if it says a 1 or a 2, it can go in. And the other thing that we're going to introduce that we've never allowed before is pizza boxes. So, yeah. So pizza boxes have never been allowed because the processors always said that the grease in the cheese causes lots of problems in the processing. Domino's did a big study, and a funded study, and they got in the weeds of it all, and they went out to processors, and they determined that there is a value enough in that fiber that it's worth it, and you can, and the grease in the cheese is a problem the processors can deal with enough to get a more positive value. So, so that's an exciting thing to introduce, because actually that can kind of fill up your garbage can pretty quickly, and also bleach and detergent bottles fill it up pretty easily too. So we're hoping people can save room in their garbage can, put that in their recycling starting June 1st. So, so that's kind of an exciting thing that's coming. I have, other than that, I kind of provided CPI. This is just me going to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics just to show the 8.6% year over year. And then these are cost factors that we see. When I talk about labor, when you talk about the market for CDL drivers, to keep drivers in the seats, to keep the garbage picked up, it's very competitive right now. And so in January, we did a 14% market wage increase for all of our drivers. We need to ensure that they're going to be there, that we have reliable service. And so, so we've been able to stabilize through doing that. We've got the landfill tip fee increase. They're going up 3.53% July 1. Again, the CPI is 8.6. And the fuel went up 108% April over April. It was $2.12 diesel fuel rack in April 21, and now it's $4.40 in April 22. We hope that drops, but that's a pretty big direct impact to our costs, immediate. I always provide sort of rate comparisons. I always think if I was a city councilor, I'd want to know where do we stand with other cities and that kind of thing. You can find Crestwell's right there in the target area. There's differences between all of the cities. But yeah, I think Crestwell is a good, reasonable rate. But I'm happy to answer any questions on that. And then the rest of it's just stuff we've done in the community. We do the bike build every year with our drivers. We donate money and then build bikes for kids that we hand out. Crestwell Relief Nursery gets bikes. Arbor Day, the Christmas Parade. Crestwell Night Out. There's me with Steve Carmichael and Crestwell First. We love Crestwell First. My wife's on the board. And just different things of donations to the city that we do. That's kind of the presentation. I'm happy to also talk about there is a Recycling Modernization Act at a state level that got passed in 2021, and I sit on the board of the Haulers Association, but I also sit on the legislative committee of the Association of Oregon Recyclers, so I try and keep close tabs on all the legislation. So I'm happy to discuss that as well, or at least give a general overview as to where it's at right now in the state. So with the China crisis happening in 2018, some cities had to shut down recycling entirely. Some cities stopped taking plastics. We limited plastics. The rates went way up on the cost of recycling. The state DEQ started saying, okay, well, what do we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Why is this happening? What's the problem? The problem is that the recycling is too full of contamination. Countries like China don't want it. How do we stabilize that? Well, you develop other markets, and specifically domestic markets for this material. And then the third part is you look to producers of the material itself to help pay and stabilize this market. So what they passed was called EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. And Oregon and Maine and there's one other state, I think Colorado just passed it, sort of the forerunners on this. Basically, it means that we're making the plastic producing companies help pay for the recycling of the plastics. So the companies that produce the Pepsi and Coke bottles and all those types of things, they will have to, starting in 2025, put money into a fund that will be used to stabilize the recycling markets in Oregon. So they're going to have to start paying on the back end to cover for the recycling costs. So that passed. That doesn't happen until 2025, but in the meantime, there's steps that are happening right now. As far as I have a meeting with the DEQ in June to discuss what that funding might look like for like communities. Some of it goes to education. And then also a big piece that's really sort of exciting is called the Truth in Labeling Act. which they just had their final stakeholders meeting today for a report a recommendation that's due on June 1st. And what the Truth in Labeling Act is when you look at the bottom of a piece of plastic and you see the chasing arrows and you don't know, it's confusing, right? And you call your hauler and they say, no, that can't go in. Well, it's got a little chasing arrow. There's a long history behind why there's chasing arrows on the bottom. But the bottom line is that it's caused a lot of confusion. And so the Truth in Labeling Act will require producers of those plastic items to have clearly labeled if it can go in the recycling or not. So that's the ultimate goal. To give if I'm shopping and I see and I can tell which one is recyclable or not, to have that choice and to be educated myself as to what can go in. So that's really exciting. I think that's a really positive movement, and Oregon's been a front runner for that. There's lots of other things like education and outreach to multifamily housing locations. We started, I just took this picture today, KMS Apartments here in Crestwell. I made some signs and some additional stickers to hopefully help with some education. And we partnered with Lane County and went door to door handing out flyers with recycling education. I picked one apartment complex to sort of start a pilot in each of the cities, and KMS Apartments seemed to be a good one for Crestwell. So I'll have to change all the signs now, of course, with June 1st coming. But anyway. So I am open to any questions, and thank you for letting me be here.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. All right, questions, comments?
I had a few questions, but as you went on, Aaron, you answered them.
Oh, that's
so
good.
Thank you.
If I talk long enough.
No, you did great. You did really good.
Okay.
Good job.
Hey, Dave, you said you had some questions.
I do. I might as well start. I have a whole series of them. So,
Oh, goodness.
You know, poke your easy chair. On the first, and some of these are just questions for my information.
Yeah.
On the first page, on the letter you wrote, at the bottom, it says, we appreciate the council's guidance to staff on other city utilities to work to shield residents from the dramatically rising inflationary costs. So I wasn't sure what that meant, the council's guidance to staff on other city utilities.
So I usually I just was I had requested, I just talked to Michelle and I was like, what is the guidance on, what are the other utilities that are facing impacts that the council is approving? I want to know what the council's guidance is. I want to know what the temperature, you guys represent the citizens, you know what they can bear and what they're open to, and I want to know what the temperature is of the citizens. And we're seeing an 8 to 9% increase in our costs, but that may not be feasible for what Crestwell residents can bear. And so I kind of reached out and was like, look at the other utilities. So that's what I was, and my understanding is, are the other utilities around 4 to 5%? Is that, okay. So we wanted to be sensitive to that and come in. So that's kind of what that means.
So since I've been mayor, we haven't talked about other utilities that I remember.
No, that's all driven, that was all just me. That was just
Okay.
me bringing it up and asking Michelle the question and wanting to get a feel for what was going on that way.
So when do we review the other utilities? We're talking about like Pacific Power and Light,
No, we're talking water and sewer.
our utility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we haven't specifically given guidance in this area yet, but
No.
we've given guidance in the sense that we've done the water and, okay, I see.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
was
good
more of a
question.
general statement to just say that we want to be sensitive to what you guys are sensitive to, so.
Okay, that answered that question for me. On the back page, I loved what you were saying about the, you answered the question about adding food waste in. That was good. On the back page, we continue to educate residents about cost-saving service options and recycling opportunities, including reduced equipment sizes and frequency of collection.
Yeah. So in the Crestwell rate structure, there's actually, I think it might be more than any other city. As far as the service options that are available, so you can have all the way down to a 35-gallon once a month. You can go to 21-gallon weekly. A 35-gallon once a month is $5. With this rate increase, should be $5.90. Now so what we want is to tailor it to A lot of times it tends to be like an elderly person that might live alone that just does not generate very much garbage. It's beneficial to not have to have them pay for a full weekly service if they don't need it. So here's all the options you can go down. And so that's what, when they call our office, we try and provide them with all those options as to what the service levels are. Well, do you fill your can? Do you actually need this much service? That kind of a thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had a next door neighbor, a single man who had a 21 gallon,
Yeah,
but I think he put it out like every other week.
he might have. I mean,
But he was paying for it weekly.
well, he might have wanted, yeah, he could go down to maybe a 35 gallon once a month. That's less than $6.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what that means, and recycling. And I love to hear what you're talking about recycling. Back in 2018, I remember going to the mayor's conference in Florence, and someone from Sanapak presented. I don't think it was you, but that's when we were having the crisis
Yeah.
of recycling in it, and it got curtailed way back.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my, what's going to happen here? So that's good to hear your report.
Yeah, yeah.
And-
Florence eliminated plastics altogether. I think Cottage Grove did as well. So yeah, a lot of cities, some cities landfill their recycling for a while because recycling when I started, you got paid, $5-7 a ton for it. And then all of a sudden 2018 hit and they were like, okay, it's $150 a ton to get rid of it. And so it's like, well, garbage is 80. So what do we do? That's what that was about.
Yeah.
But since then, markets have stabilized domestically, and there seems to be some stability. We reached out to all the processors. We didn't want to do this sort of willy-nilly. They said, yeah. And then one of the other things that's going to happen in 2025 is a statewide list. So every resident in the state is going to have the same recycling list and recycling instructions.
Awesome.
That will be helpful.
Yeah, so that's going to happen, and these items, we've gotten assurances that these will be on that list, so it's not like we're going to go backwards. These should stay, and these are pretty secure to stay. So,
That's great. We have family that visit from other areas and they, put a yogurt container in my recycling. I'm like, that
Yeah.
right now,
Not right now,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
And yogurt is a number 5.
Is
The
it?
dairy tub is a number 5 plastic, so that's more difficult to market at number 5.
So then I noticed, as I was looking through, on these pretty color charts,
Yeah.
on the back of the first page, it says MHP. What does MHP stand for?
Mobile home park.
Mobile Home Park.
Yeah, so they get so we realized that if you have 100 units in a mobile home park and there's one bill, should be cost savings there, both in the density and we only have to deal with one bill and one customer essentially at that moment. So they get a little bit lower rate just to compensate for that.
So how many mobile home parks do we have in Crestwell?
Well, there's what's the one right there?
We have 3.
There's a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of 1
We have
and
River,
2. I'm
Camas
trying to think
Mill,
of the third
and
one.
Crestwell Court.
Yeah.
And then the
Camas.
RV.
Camas.
Camas Mill is before Crestwell Court. It's very small. It's where the Taylor's Restaurant Supply is, on Art Lot.
Okay.
It's very small.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 3.
Crestwell Court's the largest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the court itself pays one
They get one bill. pay
bill,
one-
and then all the residents, it's wrapped into their monthly.
Yep. A lot of mobile home parks do that. They build it into the
Okay.
site rental fee.
Thank you for that, I didn't know what that meant. Then I noticed on this chart
Yes.
that in Crestwell, if you're 4 yards a week and 5 and 6,
Yep.
that it's quite a bit more expensive. Well, no, not there. 6 yards a week, or some of the other ones, going down to temporary, permanent, temporary, that we're higher than all the other communities. I wondered, what that meant, because when we approve a rate increase, it doesn't just affect residents, it affects all of our businesses.
Yes, that's correct.
And so then my question is, well, how's this gonna impact the businesses in Crestwell that have huge containers
Yeah.
and do lots of garbage? And it appeared that they were paying more than other like-sized communities.
Well, so the rate structure is, each city, my experience, has a rate structure that was built on somewhat historical, a building of historically based on that city specifically. Springfield has historically always done a lower residential rate with a higher commercial rate that has subsidized the residential rate. There's also a lot more density when you get into a Springfield area versus even a Crestwell City area. Veneta is at one point is located in an area that at one point we could take the waste to a different landfill. That provided a different disposal cost, so that option is potentially out there, and so they're at essentially a lower cost in some items because of that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we can look at, I would say, if you want to know the real impact of an average business, like a Subway probably has a 3-yard once a week. So if you looked at that, it's $276.15. That's with the 5% price increase. So they're going up. If it was 5% less than that. So what is that? $11 a month.
And that's very comparable.
Yeah. There's not that many. I don't know if there might be a 6-yard once a week in Crestwell. I don't think there's a 5-yard in Crestwell. I think a 3-yard twice a week. I'm thinking the PJs might have that, or Dairy Queen might have a 3-yard twice a week. The larger generators, there are a handful, and they will pay 5% on the higher amount. But I feel if you looked at the Crestwell, if you looked at the full balance and you did all the math and all the multipliers on the full balance, I think Crestwell is right in the same target area as Eugene, Springfield, or Veneta in cost to its businesses and residents. It would take sort of a detailed study. I remember looking at it maybe like 4 years ago and doing that, and I felt, at the time I remember saying, yeah, this is right in target with everything once you do all the math as to what people actually have for services.
So historically in Crestwell, it was interesting your comment.
Yeah.
In Crestwell, has there been a history of businesses paying a little bit more to subsidize residents, or, I mean, quite honestly, as I've reviewed Sanapac through the years, I primarily thought of just residences.
Yeah.
This was the first time I looked it over, I thought, oh, how does this impact businesses?
Yeah.
Do you know the history in Crestwell?
Well, we bought P&J Disposal. They were the hauler in Crestwell. I can't remember what year that was, 2007 or 8 maybe. Then we didn't do a price increase for a number of years, and then it caught up and we had to do a very large price increase. At the time we bought P&J, there was also a lot of back due balance on franchise fees that I believe we paid. And I don't know if the rates were built on that way back from P&J, or if we established new rates sort of to right-size them at the time of that one initial price increase that might have been around 2010. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think, just looking at spreadsheets that are from my memory. I think it was around then that we did, had to do, it was a 9.75 price increase to bring the rates up to, and at that time, I think we were probably reviewed all the rates locally and built a system that was comparable. Now Crestwell is a little bit more rural, it's a little bit more drive time, I guess, to get to. I think the rates are comparable if you went down the line. But yeah, I can dig into it more.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a historical thought pattern of subsidizing commercial with resi or vice versa. I don't think there was, but I don't know.
Okay, those are my questions, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll have more information on what is recyclable in our pay bills. in the
Yes,
future.
so in your next bill, you're gonna get the flyer kind of that I showed. On the back side of that is gonna be a full recycle guide that'll show all the items that can go in with the updated information.
I post that for everyone to look at.
Oh, good.
I don't think they always listen to it.
Yeah.
My roommates.
Yeah, okay. There's also a mobile app that I didn't talk about, but we really push. It has a waste wizard on it. You can look up any item and see where it's recyclable. You also get a notification the night before set out to put your card out with the mobile app. And it gets, I think we have, I think there's like over 18,000 users of it right now, so it gets a lot of use.
Other questions for Aaron?
Yeah.
So I had only one question this evening, but I think we kind of dove into it a little bit, and that was regarding the rate comparisons.
Yeah.
And what drives, so what might be some of the other factors that would drive the differences between the cities? And now I understand that possibly subsidizing a rate in one
Yeah.
case and the other, because I noticed the larger numbers on the commercial stuff as well, and I was like, wow, that's, compared to Eugene, it's actually higher, whereas on everything else it's lower, so. But are there other factors that might drive those kinds of differences?
There's the disposal location, there's the route density, and then there's just sort of the historical nature of them all.
Okay. So those are the main ones then,
Yeah,
which
I
we
think those are
covered.
the main ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If you look at a 35 gallon every other week, Crestwell is actually pretty good, 1176 compared to Eugene 1811. I think that's a good option. If you go on the line, it is interesting that everything's different all across the board, and I think that's just the way, if you looked at any city in Oregon, I think you're going to see all of these little differences, just the way they kind of develop over time.
And why is it on the smaller cans, there is no information for those Springfield, Veneta, Cottage Grove?
They're not available, those service levels aren't available.
The service isn't available or
They're not in the
the?
rate structure, so it's not like, and I think, 35 gallon once a month, in Crestwell it's $5.88, okay? That gets you a trash cart and a blue box for recycling and a commingle cart for recycling. Each of those carts is over $50, right? So it costs, we're getting $6, and the cost of the disposal, the cost of the recycling, we're probably losing money or something. It takes a while to even make that money back, but it is something that a franchise system provides, to where you require us to provide all of these services to every resident, and it's mandatory, and we have to do it at a certain rate. So that is a benefit that you guys have in your rate structure. It's just not available in those other rate structures, so that's why I put in A.
But that, excuse me, that has nothing to do why the hauling of Crestwell's trash seems to be more?
It could be that was a balance, that it's like, we would like to offer this service that's essentially negative profit in order to maybe subsidize this other services on some level. It's possible that was in the thought process at the time. I'm not sure, but it's possible. And I would think that's a valuable offering for people, and that's sort of a goal of the city franchise agreement.
So when it said Cottage Grove, no plastics recycling in blue box.
Yeah, so they do not allow plastics in their recycling. So not even milk jugs or drinking bottles. So that to me is a dramatic enough difference. I kind of wanted to mention it because that'd have to go into your garbage at that point. Recycling itself is done with a small blue box versus a large cart as well. So there's some differences there operationally. That, let's say, and I think Cottage Grove has, I know the owner of the company there, and I think they're legitimate, nice people and good, hardworking. It's just that little town, and what they decided to set up was this. And there's cost differences in running that operation versus we provide a 95-gallon cart with, all the plastics and everything. So,
So does that change with that rule where eventually they're going to have to do it and allow people to recycle them? As if,
it might, yeah, it probably will. Yeah, it probably will. And I don't know, they might be talking to the city too at this point to change that, I'm not sure. But,
This is kind of a personal question.
yeah.
In that, is it more beneficial for us to put our recycling out every time I can, or just to put it out when it's full?
Ideally, the less you put it out, then we can pick it up less and the truck has to stop less, idle
Okay,
less. and
that's
better.
my thinking, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
It goes out only when it's full,
That's-
which is about every 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, feel free to put it out whenever you want. It's-
Right.
We'll pick it up, but.
Right, I know, I
If
just
you're looking at
want to
like-
know what helps you the
Yeah,
most.
if you're looking at like an environmental impact study point, yeah, probably if we picked up less,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, so Michelle, what's the next step in our process?
We would need to, as part of our budgeting process, we would need to approve the rate.
Okay? And that would happen at a council meeting,
It'll happen at the June 11th council meeting.
along with the budget.
June, yeah, whatever the budget meeting, council meeting is.
Okay? Is that a part of our city budget? So, I mean, the.
No, it'll be a separate item.
Okay. It's not a part of the city's budget?
No.
Okay, it's a separate item. Okay? So it will be on the agenda for the June council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And then we can have any further discussion or debate of it at that time, right? Do you have any other questions for Aaron?
Sure. Sure. Excuse me. Because seems like the businesses are probably going to be affected the most. I mean, I just have to ask, would you consider less than 5% increase?
I mean, we feel like 5% is a good offering to the city. It's what we've offered other cities, and I feel like it is appropriate as to what the fuel increases and other our cost increases, so.
Sure, and I appreciate your statement in curtailing or shielding the residents from the dramatically rising in inflationary costs, which is so true. And the sewer and the water and the public safety are all going up.
Right.
And then now we'll hit them, again with the Santa back. So that's why I just asked if you would consider that, help curtailing it a little more.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's a good question, especially from a counselor. So, but I feel like to represent our costs and what we need long-term to service the city, we are requesting the 5%. And what happens when you don't go in for what you actually covering your costs over the long term, the city pays a price for that. And that's just my opinion, is that you have to, then it's all of a sudden it's a huge sticker shock at some point. So, but I feel good about 5%. That's just my opinion. I feel like it's less than our actual cost increase every year. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, and for all your questions. I live in Crestwell, and I appreciate the hard work you guys do, and you guys are all great. So keep up the good work.
The other thing I was reminded of was I went out to the landfill on Saturday, and I had a flashback to where my boy is almost 32, my son, and we used to always haul our own garbage. This was clear back in the day before we had B&Js or here. So you did haul your own garbage if you lived in Crestwell. And I've never owned a truck, but I had lots of good folks in the church that would let me borrow their truck. I just go down my list and call them all a few days in advance, and somebody'd loan me the truck. And I would get my little boy, he was 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever. We'd go out to the dump and we'd throw it all in. This was even before they put the nice transfer station out here. I remember going out to the ponds. I forget what that's called out there. We were going to buy it.
Cinderella Ponds.
Cinderella Park.
I remember going out there and dumping in the landfill. And so Friday I drove into town borrowed my son's truck. We've turned around now. Came down to Creswell, got someone else to help me. And I said to my son, Dalen, do you remember the days you and I used to haul our garbage out? Oh, yeah, Dad, I remember the days. I'm busy on Saturday. But I was reminded, even today, this is an option.
It is.
Crestwell, people in Crestwell don't have to have Santa Pack come by. They can still do whatever with their garbage and take it out. It's still an option. So this is not like it's a rate we're passing on to everybody. If you want the service. I do have another question. What is the cost for yard?
Yard debris?
Yeah, because I'm sure it's in here, but I didn't see it.
It's in this long sheet.
In the
So yard
long,
debris is also a subscription-based service, you don't have to have it.
and I remember that. And I hauled all mine out to the dump and I thought, maybe I need to.
So it's $663 now.
Which page is it on?
It's the second page of the rate sheet.
Oh, monthly, commercial, those are,
65-gallon yard waste, DOW, which is every other week. It's at the bottom of the second rate sheet page.
I'm looking. I have the monthly residential rate, then I have the mobile home park.
It's right after the monthly residential page. It's right below the mobile home park. Before you get to.
Oh, 65-gallon yard waste, right there.
Yep.
And that's $6.95 a month?
That is after the 5%, right now it's $663. And you
So-
do it every other week pickup of a 65-gallon yard debris cart.
And so that's a 12-month program,
Yeah.
year-round, so during the winter months, it may just sit, but you're still paying
Right.
$6.95 per month.
Yeah,
We
it's-
use ours years round.
We use ours year round too.
Yeah, there's
Every
enough
other
yard
week.
debris.
Now you can throw your food in it.
We're the
so-
only one who keeps the Santa Pack calendar. For some reason, all the neighbors are like, Jim, are you putting out your recycling? My husband's like, the one they ask. It's really weird.
Tell them to download the app.
That's a
Yeah,
good
you
point.
can just type in your address, but, yeah, it's optional, it's not required.
Okay, I
It started in
missed that.
2019, and participation has grown to where now I think it's 30% of residents that use it.
I saw that, that's good.
Lots of Amazon
All of
boxes.
the tree trimming and bush trimming and everything that you have to do in the winter, you still use it. We filled ours up.
I put my Christmas tree in it.
You do?
Really?
Chop it up and put it in there.
Hey, you're
I think
getting
I did that one year.
ideas.
Okay, half of it in there.
I just call the Boy Scouts.
I do too.
Okay, I have no more questions. Anybody else? Okay,
All my questions have been asked and answered, so I'm good.
thank you, Erin. Appreciate your presentation very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Understand what's going on.
So, we have nothing scheduled for discussion items. We have nothing else, so we are now adjourned.
I told Lisa an hour.
My card, if you ever have questions, just let me know, I can answer them directly for you. I think I've given you my.
Thanks, sir.
I do.
Michelle, you want us to pick up the tables and move them back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, sir, so we're on for Friday, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that. You mentioned about the rail.
Well, so it's actually getting bad time. It's, let me pull up exactly what.